Good morning, my loves. How you doing? Deanna here. Welcome to this broadcast. This is Mentoring for Awakening, episode 12. Can you believe it? And today, in this video, I'm going to talk to you about your higher self. As I mentioned in the comments, or in the title, I should say, of this video. In episode 8, we talked about your shadow unconscious self, or our collective shadow unconscious. But in this one, I want to focus more on your higher self, and I want to ask basically the same questions. Excuse me. Ask the same questions with regards to what is it, why should we bother with the higher self, what is the point, and how to recognize it. And to start this conversation, I want to start with saying this. When we are born on this planet, we don't just accidentally, coincidentally be born just to sort of to a family, kind of coincidentally, just to sort of learn the rules of society and government and follow and zombie our way through life. There is a purpose. There's a point to us having a life. We don't just kind of suddenly and accidentally sprout up in this physical realm, and we just go through the motions of living until the day you die. Sorry about that. Why am I saying this? I want you to consider that every breath you take has a point. Everything that you do is facilitated by something that's bigger than this physical body, than the average daily thoughts that you have. And your higher self has something to do with that beautiful purpose, with the reason why you're here on this planet. Now, as an individualized expression of, of that universal all that is energy, your expression, your soul will have a sort of will have a point of why it's here and what it wants to experience in a life, what you want to evolve, which aspects of your journey you want to involve, what you want to experience, like I said, and what you want to learn or what you want to try and remember, depending on the journey in this life you want to have. So let's talk about your higher self then. As always, I've made some notes, and because I'm trying to keep these teachings to a relatively short-ish kind of video. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here. I appreciate you so much. Love you. I make some notes and sort of try and stick to that, because really some of these themes are quite elaborate and they're really beautiful and can be discussed at length and depth. But we'll keep it pretty concise here for this style of teaching, I guess, or paying knowledge forward. So, it's really interesting as I reflect back to what kind of things I wrote down in relation to the higher self. One of the things that I said was that, in other words, when I was talking about we don't just sprout into this world for no reason at all and then just spend our entire lives following a set of rules given to us by others. We don't also... I also wrote, in other words, we are so much more than a set of survival instincts born into a scary, threatening world where we need to just survive by following those sets of rules set and precedented by others in society, you know, by the more powerful ones, you know, the people in authority. Now, why do I go to the survival instinct? Because throughout evolution, this is how it started for us. That's that really primal part of the brain that ensures that a species, a biological species, survives. It's the survival instinct. In our brain, the survival instinct essentially is our ego aspect. And if you remember, if you watched episode 8 about our shadow unconscious, a lot of this survival stuff sits in that part of the brain that's also associated with the ego. Yes. So our higher self. So therefore, if we are looking at our evolutionary experience, where the ego aspect has more to do with the survival of the species, the survival of the fittest aspect, ego aspect of ourselves, yeah, then the higher self on the other aspect of the evolution has to do with the part of ourselves, with the part of you that's transcended that aspect, that pure survival instinct that has transcended and is able to see the bigger picture, the purpose, how you and your evolution, how you play a part in being here and why this is so very important. Yeah. So if we are looking at that sort of loop of evolution, on one hand, we have that survival of the species ego aspect that's always looking to survive, that's always kind of hypersensitive to any kind of danger, any kind of triggers, always looking for the worst case scenario so it can protect itself and it can survive. And of course, this was necessary initially because we needed, as a species, we needed to survive. We needed to, you know, survive from all sorts of different things, from environmental, from issues, from, you know, being attacked by other predators, all of that sort of stuff. Your higher self, on the other hand, is that loop of evolution where you are able to transcend and lift above that pure survival state and see things from a higher perspective. So I hope that sort of makes sense to you. Now, your higher self will see things from a more connected perspective and a higher perspective. Yes, it exists because your consciousness, it's really about how you consciously are able to observe and see, I'm sorry, it's all happening this morning, and see the world around you, yeah? How you are connected to all the different aspects of life, of existence, not just on this plane, but outside of planet Earth as well. Yes, you have one. If you're alive and breathing, you have one. And yes, it does exist. It absolutely exists. It is your connection to that expression in the higher realms, okay? Now, I wrote down an analogy that I'm going to talk to you about. So see how there's there's a set of stairs, right? So I live in an apartment that's 2 levels, right? So say, for example, this ground floor is my ego survival aspect, right? And from this perspective, I can see, right, only this space immediately around me. The rest of me is walls and windows with a limited view out there. Now, if I'm hypersensitive and looking to survive, this is a really, as you know, it's a fear-based filter through which I see the world, because I'm waiting, I'm feeling like I need to protect myself. I only feel safe within these walls. Maybe everything outside of here is dangerous, and I never see what's coming until it's already on top of me, or it's already arrived. And so that can create a whole heap of anxiety around, oh my God, something's coming to get me, but I can't see what it is. Yeah. Now imagine the higher, your higher self perspective within this, say, living scenario would then be, I go upstairs to my balcony, and all of a sudden, from that perspective, I can not only see my unit and all the rooms in it, my bedroom, I also have a view of the neighborhood. I can see much more open space. I can see how my unit block is connected to somebody else's unit block and my neighbor's house, and a much larger, broader perspective. I've risen above the immediate survival nature of the ego, and I, as a higher from my higher self perspective, I can see a much broader picture. And as a result of being able to see, feel, observe the bigger picture, the higher perspective then dissolves that necessity of pure survival instinct. And when we are in that higher perspective, we can it helps dissolve the fear. It helps lift above. It helps to feel more connected to a broader sense of consciousness and unity with others. It helps to feel more compassion. It helps to know that you're not alone. So this is kind of why you might want to bother to explore your higher self perspective, so that you can extrapolate yourself essentially from that fear-based anxiety of living just in ego. Yeah? Okay. Let me just refer to my notes. Yeah, okay. Here's the fun bit. How do we recognize this, right? Now, let's go back. So I'm showing you this loop, this evolutionary loop, from just being survival mode to understanding that we are more than just the survival mode, and we can consciously lift ourselves up into a higher self and therefore a higher perspective. So I'm going to again go back to where we began as a species, which is that ego survival mode, right? Which is, so when we're in ego and in survival mode, there are two massive attributes that happen, right? That are associated with the survival mode. One is separation. Right? It's us against them, or me against you. And the other one is to control the situation. Yeah? So control as much control as possible in order to win over somebody else, because it's separation and it's survival of the fittest. Yeah. And so control and separation within the context of survival creates, puts us into and triggers that fight and flight response. But it's not just fight or flight, it's fight, flight, freeze, essentially. So it's where if we are feeling threatened and we need to win or survive, we are likely to fight, get into argument. I mean, you just have to have a look at the world around us. How many people are triggered in this survival mode at the moment? So we are fighting. We fight on social media, for God's sake. We are arguing with people we don't even know. We don't understand their circumstances. We don't understand their evolutionary arc. And everybody's just throwing opinions at each other and all this rubbish. And it's not even a healthy debate. I'm not a fan of debating, quite honestly, but it's not even a healthy debate. This is literally just throwing punches at a drop of a hat. So that would be your fight survival mode, us and them, remember, separation and control and win at any cost. Then there's the flight, where we just run away from, because we can't deal with, and we shut down. And so the shutdown mechanism of survival is, just so that you understand from the perspective, from a psychological perspective, is where we then depress expression of self and develop a mental and emotional disharmony that eventually can lead to depression, clinical depression, or anything, mental health issues and physical issues. And then there's the freeze, where you can't even, I got nothing. I got nothing. I'm trying to think of, see, when I say freeze, the survival, the freeze thing, it's the play dead scenario, and of course playing dead is like, you might as well be. Really dangerous. Anyway, I'm going to move on. So if our ego, rewind. How do we recognize that our higher self is talking to us? Well, if our ego, right, and survival mode is talking to us, it will talk to us through a survival-based instinct. So fight, flight, freeze, fear, anxiety, feelings of you are not safe. That is your ego response, right? Whenever you feel like you have to survive, you have to win, it's you against somebody else, that is ego mode instantaneously, regardless of whether you're right or wrong or indifferent. It's always ego survival mode. When it's your higher self speaking to you, right? When it is your highest expression, right? So if you imagine, right, I'm down here and myself that's upstairs on the balcony, more at peace, more united with other aspects of the world and expressions. Sorry, I'm laughing because someone just asked me, can you run for press? No, thank you. That's funny. When your higher self is responding in your world, there is always always a response that will come from all of you. Yeah, that's the first thing. From your body, from your heart, your mind, not just your head, where you have a really focused, kind of narrow-minded view when it's the ego. When it's your higher self speaking to you, it's this extraordinary feeling of your whole body responding to, in my experience, most commonly to some form of a heart-centered attribute, meaning to a sense of freedom, to joy, to genuine compassion, yeah, expansion that comes from your whole body outward into the world, to understanding, to a depth. When your higher self is speaking to you, there is a depth to which this beautiful energy is generated from within you and expressed outwards into the world. For me, I always know that when my highest expression is present and speaking to me and to the world around me, there is such a deep sense of peace. I feel so at peace. There is nothing, it doesn't matter what's going on in the world. I am at peace. I am connected to my higher self, and together we can be the peace this world needs, but done for self, expressed out into the world, contributing to the world in that peaceful way. Yeah, I know that many of my clients, when they are connected with their higher self, the primary emotion is that of exponential joy, like just this childlike, innocent joy that is felt in every molecule in your body and then expressed into the world. Another way for you to know that your higher self is speaking to you is that it speaks to you always for your highest good. And it speaks in a much more unity language or expression. So it never terms a message to you or a set of actions or guidance. Your higher self will not send guidance to you that will be termed or deemed as a win against somebody else, as a in the form of separation. It's always for the highest good of your evolutionary arc, of what you need to learn, and therefore the highest good of everybody in your soul group in that now moment. Yeah. Because your higher self has that higher perspective, it's connected to all of you, and this is why you feel it so strongly in all of your body, in all of yourself, right? And that energy also helps you get out of the narrow minded focus of the head and more into your body, more grounded, more present in the now moment, as opposed to your mind wondering and being anxious about what's going to happen in the future, or not being able to move on from something in the past. What else did I want to say to you? So I hope that that sort of makes sense. The ego-based survival mode of the primal self, as opposed to your higher self, which has a much higher perspective, a bigger vision, an ability to feel more connected, more at peace, more in love. And when I say love, more in love with just this whole experience with self, with others. In the closing statement, I wrote, I don't know if you can see that. Oh, where are we? I wrote, be the tree, because I was going to use the analogy of the tree as opposed to my balcony, but maybe be the balcony. Get on that balcony and then be the balcony, so that you always have a really grounded, beautiful center, right? Almost like your crown chakra and above, the star chakra and above. You have a seat at that throne already. You just have to remember that you're already there. Because like I said in the beginning, it exists, your higher self, and yes, you have one. Okay, so here's what I wanted to say to you also. Recently, over the past, say, couple of weeks, 2 to 3 weeks maybe, I've had an influx of kind of back to basics counseling clients. Of course, a lot of people are dealing with issues, you know, that are coming up for everybody collectively. So I am taking clients from two perspectives, essentially. As a qualified counsellor and psych, with more back to basics therapy. You can get information on that on my website, or I'm also still working in the capacity of mentoring and life coaching, where I help you work through some of these, you know, concepts that I talk about in these teaching videos. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. Thank you so much for being here. I love you. Mwah. And I will be seeing you soon. I'm going to go and upload this to Facebook now. Oh, goodness me. To YouTube, so that the episode is up there as well. And if you want to have a look at all the episodes, just go to my YouTube channel, and it's got all the episodes in order. Yeah, okay. Much love. Bye, bye, beautifuls. Chat soon.